With more and more classes moving online, the nature of exams is starting to change. Now, no, we haven't entirely gotten rid of in-person, in-classroom exams where you actually write in a booklet, but for online classes, take-home exams are starting to be the main form of final exam. Now, there's a lot of similarities between regular exams and take-homes, but there are a few differences in how you prepare for them and how you write them that are worth noting. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. So let's start with that prep step. First, you still need to study for take-home exams. This is something that I think a lot of students overlook. They think, well, I have my notes, I'm going to have my textbooks, so I don't really need to prepare, do I? Yes. If you go into your take-home not having looked at your notes or any of your textbooks, chances are you're not going to do as well as you could have because your professor has actually designed the test knowing that you could have your notes in front of you. So studying is still very important, but exactly what that looks like is going to vary a little bit from how you would study for a regular exam. For example, memorization. A lot of students think that if you're preparing for a take-home exam, memorization is overrated because you really don't need it. And that's kind of true because you will have your notes, you will have your textbook, you can look for things as the exam goes on, but there's still value in memorizing some information, important dates, names, key figures, key ideas, because the more time you spend in your exam looking for things, the less time you actually have to write. So there is still value in memorizing some things, but maybe you don't have to memorize as much as you would normally. Second, as you are studying, you want to make sure you are studying in a way that integrates information together. What I mean by that is that you want to look for how different chapters of the textbook or different lectures relate to one another. How are there similarities and differences? How is there comparisons and contrasts? Where are there relationships? Where are there connections between ideas? That is the kind of questions your professor is going to be asking you. So make sure you spend that time when you're going through your notes looking for those connections between ideas. And perhaps the most unique thing about studying for a take-home is you're going to want to figure out how to find information quickly. When you are writing a regular exam, you don't have your notes in front of you, but when you're writing a take-home exam, you want to have strategies in place. So, know how to find keywords in your Word documents. Know where in your notebooks you have actually written down the key notes for each lecture. Know how to scan through your textbook quickly to find the information you need, and maybe consider things like sticky notes or highlighters for the really important information so that you can find it like that when you need it. So if that's how you study for a take-home exam, the next question is, what should you study? What kinds of information should you be looking for? And really, how are take-home exam questions different than that of regular exams? Well, first things first, you're going to want to have some of this information here. You're going to want to have key people or characters if you're, say, in an English class. You're going to want dates and places. If you're in a language course, you might want key vocabulary. Math courses may want key formulas, and for a lot of courses, you want to know what are the important rules or ideas or theories or themes that come up over and over and over again. This is the kind of information that is worth trying to memorize some of it, because this is the stuff you need rapid fire, on the fly, for almost any question you're going to answer. But as I said before, you're also going to want to look for connections. You're going to want to see, how do multiple chapters speak to the same idea? Maybe your professor introduced 4 theories to you in the course, and he or she spent a different lecture on each theory. Well, it's probably worth considering then the connections between those theories. How are they similar? How are they different? Because there's probably going to be a question somewhat related to that idea. But maybe the best way to prepare for a take-home, or honestly really any exam you're studying for, is to come up with practice examples. This is huge no matter what kind of question you're considering. So if you know that you need to write an essay in one of your exams, you probably want to try and come up with potential essay questions. This is where those connections really become important. Think about how lectures fit together. For example, if you have a history course, and let's say that course covered 2 different wars, maybe your professor is going to ask you a question comparing those wars. How are they similar? How are they different? That would be a great question to prepare for when you're studying, because it's a very likely possibility. Different disciplines are going to have different ways that they organize information, but look at those connections you've found when you're studying and use that to come up with a potential essay question that you can maybe prepare for in advance. For short answers, often short answers are focused around a detailed description of something. So it might be worth writing a 3 to 5 sentence summary of key terms or ideas. So if you wanted to practice short answers for a philosophy exam, you might write 3 to 5 sentence summaries of each philosopher's big ideas that you've studied this semester. Not only is that going to help you remember what they're focused on, but it actually kind of gives you a cheat sheet for when you're taking the exam itself. For multiple choice, this is where those key figures and names and definitions become really important, because that's a lot of times what multiple choice questions look for. So practice by quizzing yourself rapid fire on who important people were, what important terms mean, so that you can get used to answering those questions on the fly, even without the ABCD possible answers. And for language courses, you're probably going to want to practice translation. So go to scripture, go to your textbook, go to books written in the language you're studying, and practice translating those things. It's a great way to really just hone those skills and be ready for whatever your professor throws your way on the exam.